In the summer of 2021, the COVID-19 pandemic was dragging on in California, and I was looking for a new garage project. I had already fixed my old AR2AX stereo speakers from the 70s and repaired my dual audio turntable so it could play LPs from the 60s. Why not open that box of Edison phonograph parts left at our house about 30 years ago by my wife's father? George Amundsen told her, "I'm giving this to you and Claude because he's the only one in the family that could get it working." Even for a retired cyclotron physicist, that was a leap of faith. I had never seen an Edison Cylinder phonograph. I spread out the parts and wondered, would this thing ever play music again? The spring motor was in pieces, and only a short section of the spring was left. The hand crank to wind it and the governor used to set the speed were both missing. The good news was the base plate and the upper parts of the phonograph, while covered in oil and grime, looked okay. Even the Edison decal on the case looked to be in good shape. After cleaning and reassembling the gears, I decided to mount a small DC motor in place of the spring motor. The DC motor drive was too noisy initially, so I added some rubber to isolate the motor from the stand. I made a temporary horn to direct the sound out of the diaphragm stylus assembly, which Edison calls the reproducer. I put on a record, and indeed out came a song by the Scottish entertainer Harry Lauder. However, the audio was garbled, and it seemed the stylus was jumping between the grooves. My first guess was the stylus was causing the problem. Some web research indicated that the Fireside Model B used a diamond needle, which looked okay, but it was difficult to tell for sure. I sent the reproducer, including the needle and the 100-year-old diaphragm, off to Wyatt Marcus in Rochester, New York, for repair. A week later it was back with a new diaphragm, gaskets, and other minor repairs. Now Harry Lauder's Scottish drinking song, A Wee Doch and Doris, came through clearly. But the noise from the DC motor was still an issue. Still, I had answered the fundamental question, would this thing ever play music again? So I sent off the spring motor housing to have a new spring installed. That was a job for an expert like George Volema, owner of Great Lakes Antique Phonograph. I also ordered a crank, governor, and brake to replace other missing parts. By the time the parts had arrived, I had dug out the original Morning Glory horn and built a simple horn crane to support it. The new parts were soon installed, and it was in good enough condition that the wife allowed me to move it up from the grungy garage to the main part of the house. I tried it out on the Meadowbrook Foxtrot, recorded back in 1915 by the National Promenade Band. With the mechanical work complete, I carefully cleaned the oak case and gave it a wax coating. Now that the phonograph is fully restored, what would its original owner, Henry Amundsen, think? In 1915, he purchased this Edison Fireside Phonograph in Madison, Wisconsin, and brought it home to the family farm about 30 miles to the north. Presumably, the new phonograph found a spot in the living room of the farmhouse. His son George Amundsen was born the next year and grew up listening to these cylinders. When the farm was closed down in 1969, George gathered up the pieces of the Edison and stored them away in Kansas City. He brought them to Berkeley about 20 years later, and now, after 30 more years, it's up and running. Maybe George and his father Henry listened to the old-time Street Faker by Porter and Harlan.
And now, right before your eyes, I seal the envelope. There you are. of $17.50. But I'm not going to ask you $17.50 for it, nor $7.50, nor $6, nor $5, nor $4. I'm not going to ask you $3, nor $2, not even $1 the price of a single pen. Why, I won't even ask you 50 cents.
Gosh, I guess he's going to give him to us.
No, my friends, but for tonight only, I'm going to let you all have one of these valuable packages for the small sum of 25 cents. But before doing so, I want to call your attention to my world-famous medical discovery, which is guaranteed to stop pains of all kinds, cure dyspepsia, kidney trouble, rheumatism, lumbago, stop the hair from falling out and remove grease spots. Now, friends, I'll give you a practical demonstration. Has anyone among you got a headache?
I got one. No, I won't. Go on, you darn fool, you furious. Now you just mind your own business.
Here, gentlemen, what's the trouble?
Why, this fella here's got a headache and he wants headache.
Why, my good man, allow me to relieve you. Step right up here.
Go on, go on. Let me be.
Here you are. Now, my friends, I'll show you how quickly I can take away this man's headache. Just a little of the liquid paste on a piece of cotton so, and rub down the temple so. Is your headache all gone, my friend?
Yes, and my head too, I guess.
That's what they all say. The most wonderful medicine in the world. And now, friends, I have a surprise for you. Instead of charging you the regular retail price of $1 bottle, for the next 10 minutes I'm going to let them go for the small sum of $1.10.
I got it, what?
Now, one at a time, gentlemen, don't shout, and get your change ready while the Jubilee singers entertain you once more. Oh, I went down south for to see my Sal, sing Polly Wolly Doodle all the day. My Sally, Elma, spunky gal, sing Polly Wolly Doodle all the day. Oh, a grasshopper sitting on the railroad track, sing Polly Wolly Doodle all the day. Up picking his teeth with a carpet tack, sing Polly Wolly Doodle all the day. Very well, very well, very well, very well, very well, my fairy fay. For Port Louisiana, Port Stephen, Louisiana, sing Polly Wolly Doodle all the day. Very well, very well, very well, very well, very well, my fairy fay. For Port Louisiana, Port Stephen, Louisiana, sing Polly Wolly Doodle all the day.
I love a latte, a bonny little latte. She's as pure as the lily in the dale, and she's as sweet as the heather, the bonny purple heather, Mary Muscot's blue.